probably most noteworthy from a legislative perspective, we did the interpleading bill today, which is, once again, we see some more corporate welfare. And I think one might question the bill's sponsor and the fact that he represents a law firm who has lost several of these cases, and perhaps there is some conflict of interest there. But probably most noteworthy for this week is the governor released his budget, and I brought Representative Kendrick with me today. He's our ranking member, so he can probably give you a little bit more insight on the budget and his thoughts.
Great. Be more than happy to talk and then answer questions about it too, at least from my perspective. So glad to have it. Glad to have the budget in our hands. Was not real happy with what I saw, especially. Again, we're balancing the budget on the backs of higher education, which is not unexpected. A lot of states do it, but this is the second year in a row with proposed cuts of over $100 million to higher education. And this comes at a time period when we're at full employment in the state of Missouri. We shouldn't be seeing these cuts. We should be actually seeing increased revenue going to some of our top priorities, and that including education at all levels. It's a very concerning trend, and I think that we could just continue to be at the front end of this. We're second year implementation of Senate Bill 509 and a 5-year implementation. It's $240 million out of the budget this year. That represents 40% of all general revenue growth that we expected in FY19, just out the door within just the second year phase. And this is going to be a tremendous problem for the state of Missouri going into the future. And at a time when full employment, the economy is doing well here in the state, we may see, hopefully see increase in wages across the state, some marginal gains in the economy. But folks, it's not going to get a whole lot better than what it is right now, and we're having to cut 10% again from higher education. My goodness, what's going to happen in the next downturn? It's going to be disastrous. It's going to be disastrous for the entire state budget, not just higher education. Texas, Kansas last year undid most of their massive tax cut. The thing about Kansas, they passed their tax cut, implemented it all within the same year. They just bled it all out at once, and they realized that destroyed their economy. And last year, a group of Democrats and moderate Republicans in a Republican-controlled General Assembly overturned most of those tax cuts, are going to realize revenue back from that mistake. Missouri is going to bleed out this money slowly over a 5-year implementation. And, my biggest concern is that 5 years from now, 3 years from now, once this is fully phased in, Kansas legislators are going to be sitting across the state line saying, at least we're not Missouri. And that's my biggest concern. The next downturn is inevitable. It's going to come. It's not if, but when. Likely will come within the next 3 to 5 years, and it's going to be disastrous. It's failed tax policy.
As far as the budget plan that you've had a few days to look at now, and you and I have talked about higher education, a number of other things, do you foresee a way to keep that pay increase for state employees or some pay increase for state employees in the final budget?
I'm going to fight like heck for that pay increase. And I will say I appreciate how the governor did it. I like that the $650 flat. I wish it could be higher, and we will do what we can to make it higher. I like the fact that anybody making less than $50,000 is going to see a pay increase. There are people in the state of Missouri who are, we're losing talent, and people, public servants don't choose to go into public service for the money. They do it because there's a calling to it, and they want to make their state a better place. And we need to make sure we reward them appropriately, or start to at least pay them appropriately. And we're not doing that. We haven't done that. So, I think that we need to look at raising that above $650 if we can.
The governor wants to tie that pay increase to some kind of civil service reform. What do you think that will look like?
Well, what it looks like right now is $7 million in consulting fees being paid out in 4 different new decision items in the Office of Administration budget. So, at times when we're cutting $100 million in higher education and then we're requesting $7 million for consulting fees, we need to be focusing on the state employees, the ones that we do have, and making sure that they see pay increases this year.
To be clear, the governor wants some kind of legislation to reform the merit system. Do you have any idea what what shape that might take?
I don't. I know I believe Representative Trenton House has filed something. I haven't had a chance to take a close look at it yet.
And then the $7 million in consulting fees, those are coming on the heels of a massive survey Missouri did of its state employees.
Right.
Has the second floor kind of shared the results of that survey with anybody in the legislature?
Not that I know of, no. And that was mentioned briefly yesterday. It should have been more of the discussion. We need to have an idea of what those survey results were.
Representative Beatty, have you had any contact with Speaker Richardson regarding Warren Love and that situation?
None. He hasn't said anything since we concluded the ethics hearing.
He said just a few minutes ago that he plans on reviewing the recommendations coming out of the ethics committee and then making a decision off of that. He also expressed some concern with how the process went in terms of Warren Love basically sidestepping anything by saying no. Is any reaction to that?
Well, I had sent a letter to the Speaker's office upon conclusion of that hearing asking him to go with the initial recommendations that the Ethics Committee had made. And so hopefully he will actually review that. There was a 6-4 vote basically to reprimand and remove him from his committees, and I hope that he will follow through with that.
The committee is working on its report to submit to this office. Would your members be preparing their own report?
We haven't, until we see the report, I won't know that. This is a 50-50 committee, so we should have some input in that report. Okay.
There were some senators suggesting an investigation into the governor's actions, various actions, suggesting that the House launch something. Is that something you agree with, or are considering pushing for?
You know, I think at this point, we know there are potentially 2 investigations already going on, one with the FBI and one with the St. Louis prosecutor. At this point in time, I think we need to let those 2 processes take place and see what the results of those are. Okay, is that it? All right, thanks.
Thank you.